Hi, alternates. Welcome back to day 3 of the Georgia versus Nick Kassotis trial. I'm Margot, former active duty JAG, and your co-host for today. Today was a day heavy with forensic science and very emotional family accounts that left the courtroom rattled. Let's start at the lab. Our first witness was Michelle Shepard. She's a retired forensic DNA analyst from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Shepard's resume is the real deal. 22 years as a DNA analyst, 38 years in forensic work overall. She took the stand to explain what DNA is and how it's processed. And she did this in the most old school step-by-step way. A test tube. Then quantitation, which measures how much DNA you've got. Next comes amplification, making copies, and finally analysis, where they build a profile unique to each individual person. And it doesn't matter if the DNA comes from, tissue or spermatozoa or whatever it is. One person's DNA is all the same, regardless of how you get that profile. For this case, Shepard received DNA from the autopsy. 5 separate blood stain cards from the torso, the right leg, the left leg, the head, and the spleen. And these items were all from an unidentified victim at the time. All samples pointed, once they were tested, they pointed to the same single profile, meaning that all of these body parts belonged to the same person. To figure out who that person was, Shepard submitted the person's DNA to CODIS, hoping to get some sort of hit, but there was none. Then, months later, Shepard received a buccal, she called it a buccal swab, from Betsy Mebane to compare to her Jane Doe. When Betsy Mebane's DNA was compared to the DNA of the Jane Doe, there was a 99.9999999% probability that Betsy was the biological mother of the victim. Next came investigator James Jack Frost. Yes, that's his real name. And he was an investigator from the district attorney's office. He was the on-call detective on December 2nd, 2022, when that torso was discovered during that hunting trip. He noted that the temperature outside when they got there was somewhere in the 40s to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And crucially, he says that he didn't smell decomposition on the torso. He was there the very next day when a right leg was also found. He stayed with the leg until the coroner arrived. Then, 2 days later, on Monday, December 5th, cadaver dogs led the team to disturbed dirt about 20 to 50 yards away from where I believe it was either the leg or the torso was found. There, near an oak tree, they uncovered a human head. Eyes, I think they opened the eyes, which revealed what they thought were brown eyes. Let's fast forward to May 2023. There's an arrest warrant for Nicholas Kassotis, and he is tracked down to Pennsylvania and arrested formally on May 12, 2023. The following day, Jack Frost heads up to Pennsylvania, and he is there for Nick's first interrogation, and he's there with Agent Sands. Even though Nick is an attorney, he waives his rights and he talks. That interview was audio recorded only. So I got really excited as I was watching the trial today, thinking, oh my gosh, they are going to play this audio. But they didn't, and I'm really hopeful they will later. Within 2 weeks of Nick's arrest, he is extradited from Pennsylvania to Georgia, and Jack Frost is present when Nick speaks to them again. This time, the interrogation is both video and audio recorded. Oh, and I forgot to mention that right after the first interview, Nick did voluntarily provide a DNA sample. Now, Frost also laid the foundation for Home Depot business records. You see, he requested, the detective did, he requested any receipts for customers who had purchased the Milwaukee-style knife that was found near the torso. And bingo, once they requested this log of receipts of people who had purchased this specific knife from, I believe it was like August 2022 through December of 2022, guess whose name was on that list? Nicholas Kassotis. Yes, he had purchased that same exact knife on November 29th, 2022, or at least that same type of knife, right? We still have not said that that's the same exact knife, but, the same one that was used, but we know it was the same type, same SKU number, same everything. Additionally, when the investigators went back in time, they found that on August 16th, 2022, Nick had purchased wipes and reusable latex gloves and a folding knife. On November 4th, 2022, he also purchased a shovel and a hammer. Surveillance footage showed Kassotis walking out of Home Depot with that knife tucked under his arm. And they also introduced a security picture showing Nick carrying a shovel while leaving Home Depot. Now, I want to return your recollection to opening statements where they said that they discovered the head under disturbed earth that appeared to have been dug using a shovel. Because according to the investigators and the DA, some of the roots had been destroyed, which led them to believe that a person had used a shovel to get the head under the disturbed earth, right? Well, this witness, this detective, also discussed the location of the head and the disturbed earth, and there were pictures of the disturbed earth and the broken roots, which were shown to the jury. Now, I will say that it's a little bit frustrating not to be able to see exactly what the jury is seeing, but you can kind of see it from kind of like the side. But it's no kidding, like a printed picture and shown to the jury like this, like literally just walked across. Like they just don't have the technology, I guess. Then Agent Frost also discussed Bass Pro. Yes, there was some shopping done at Bass Pro. He learned that Nick Kassotis had purchased a 7-piece knife set from Bass Pro on November 28th, 2022. This witness also introduced the fact that some 2022 Fords had been recalled. Remember, we learned in opening statements, which are not facts and evidence, but we did learn on day 2, actually, that Nicholas Kassotis owned a Ford, a 2022 Ford. Well, this expert introduces documents from Ford Motor that there were specific 2022 Fords that had been recalled, but the model that Nick owned had not been on the recall list. On cross, the defense pointed out that Frost didn't prove anything about the Milwaukee knife because it could have been any one of thousands of knives that had been sold at the time. The defense also pointed out that the detective never checked other stores for matching knives or gotten kind of like a list of receipts of people who had purchased that same Milwaukee knife from other stores. He literally only checked Home Depot and stopped his search right there. The state then called Vaishnavi Hansen, the owner of the Airbnb that Kassotis had rented starting on June 30th, 2022. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, furnished place, backyard shed, and the shed had a couple of tools. Nick told the landlord that he would be moving in with his wife and that they were expecting a child. She knew that there would be 4 total adults. But Nick broke his rental contract early, and she recalled it was either November or early December. But he left the place spotless, cleaner than most of her other Airbnb customers, right? Hansen testified that everything was perfect except for one thing. The den room, which had a TV in it, there was a rug that was kind of leading to the back door. She said that when she did her inspection, that rug that she had there was gone. In its place was a smaller, cheaper rug. Although it did have a similar pattern, she did recognize it was not the same rug that she had there. This was when the prosecutor, the DA, introduced a picture of Hansen's Airbnb listing before this guy moved in and then after he had moved out. When questioned by defense, the Airbnb landlord said that there was no sign of digging in the front or backyard, and there were not any overwhelming smells of cleaning products in the house when she did her walkthrough. Next up was Tara Ransom, another GBI expert. She walked jurors through DNA testing of items taken from that Airbnb and some of the crime scenes. She found Mindy's DNA on the gray storage container linked to the case and a futon mattress cover that was at the Airbnb. But there was no DNA on the container's handles. Cross-examination highlighted that she didn't test the floor or the wall swabs of the Airbnb for DNA. And as you heard from Tabitha yesterday, they don't normally test all of the items that are found at crime scenes. Now, the final two witnesses that were called for the day were Mindy's parents. And when I tell you that they appeared like the most kind couple ever, believe me, because I'm not lying. It's amazing how quickly testimony can shift from science-based to just raw emotion, and you can kind of see the nerves. So let me tell you the gist of their testimony that was similar. I'm going to tell you the story combined, and then I'll break down some of the things that they said that were different or stood out to me. Betsy Mebane is Mindy's mother, and Frank Mebane III is her father. They have been married for over 47 years, and they had 3 kids. Mindy was the oldest, followed by her brother Frank IV soon after. And then they had their oops baby when the 2 oldest were already like in their late teens. His name is Matthew. They both described that Mindy was a very smart woman, honors classes in high school and college, and then she even got a master's degree, and at some point she found herself in the Metro DC area. Mindy met Nicholas Kassotis sometime in late 2014 via a dating app, and they were married in the fall of 2016. Mindy moved into Nick's house in Virginia. Now, Nick was working as an active duty JAG when they met, but eventually he separated from the military. Although Frank III says that Nick retired. We all know that Nick is not retired military. After separating from the Navy, Nick started working and developing a program that was, this is very confusing, y'all, so just hang with me, right? This is what the couple says. They were told that Nicholas started working and developing a program that was competing with Microsoft. And then Nick had to start being careful because him and Mindy's life were in danger. Now, Mindy and Nick then started moving from place to place, and they would only communicate with the Mebanes via the Signal app. So let me tell you about Betsy's testimony just a little bit. She testified that she knew that her daughter and Nick wanted kids. She believed that Mindy had had a miscarriage previously, and she had been told that Mindy was due with their first daughter on January 8th, 2023. But before I go any further, let me play you a portion of Betsy's testimony.
Did Mr. Kassotis and your daughter have children?
Did they have children? No.
During the course of the time that they were married, do you know if they tried to have children?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, why do you say that?
Well, we were told that Mindy was pregnant, so...
Do you know if she had had any miscarriages during the course of their marriage?
I think she had one several years before she died, but...
Okay, and so it was your understanding that while she was last alive, she was pregnant?
Yes.
Did they give you an idea, and I say they, I mean, did your daughter specifically tell you when she was due?
She didn't specifically tell me. Mr. Kassotis told us.
When did he tell you she was due?
January 8th.
January 8th of 2023. Did they tell you, well, did he tell you whether it was a boy or a girl?
I believe he said it was a girl.
Can you tell us, how was their marriage between 2016 and 2018? Were there any problems?
Objection calls for speculation.
If she knows.
Do you know, ma'am?
I thought they had a good marriage.
So there didn't seem to be any problems, was merely my question. My apologies if that was inartful. Did there come a time when something occurred to make you believe that there was a change in their marriage condition?
Yes, when they actually were sort of hiding out because we were told they feared for their lives.
Who told you that?
Mindy and Nick.
Okay. Did they give you any specifics about why they were fearful of their lives?
Yes, first we were told they'd been hacked. Then we were told another story about Nick was supposed to be working for Microsoft, and he had taken on work for some smaller company underneath Microsoft, and he had solved some kind of an algorithm, and they were giving him company stock, and I guess it was supposed to be, I don't know. That's all I know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Was that information conveyed to you by whom? Your daughter or Mr. Kassotis?
Probably my daughter.
Okay. And so she was telling you what the concerns were surrounding their danger?
Yes.
Okay. And when did this first start happening to your recollection?
I would say maybe late 2018 or early 2019 would be my best. That's sort of a best guess.
Okay. As a result of those problems, did they ever have to move?
Yes, they started moving from place to place, and we didn't always know where they were. So
When did they start moving, if you recall?
around that same late 2018, early 2019 time.
Do you know if they left Virginia?
Yes, they did.
Do you know what
I
happened?
mean, I don't know how long they were in Virginia, but they did leave Virginia.
And you indicated that they had been living in Virginia at some point when they were
Yes.
first married. Did you ever visit that home?
I did.
Do you know what happened to that home?
I don't.
Okay. And when they were in Virginia, you said they started moving. Do you know if they ultimately left Virginia?
Yes, they did.
Do you know where they went?
I believe North Carolina, and I know at some points they were in South Carolina. I'm not sure of anywhere else.
Okay. And how did you get information of where they were?
We communicated by Signal, the Signal app.
Can you tell us what Signal app is to the best that you understood?
An app where you could communicate, but in short time afterwards, it would be erased and there would be no record of it.
Who asked you to start using Signal app?
Mindy and Nick.
Had you ever used that before?
No,
Were you familiar with it before they asked you to use it?
only from reading about it in a book.
Okay. And was that the means by which you started communicating with them?
Yes.
And was
Sometimes email, but mainly Signal.
Okay. And when you started using Signal app, was Mr. Kassotis still in the Navy at that time?
No.
Do you know how or what happened in terms of his departure from the Navy?
We were told that he wanted to go into some other field, and I believe he worked for maybe the Department of Veterans Affairs shortly and for a while. And
So was your understanding that was why he left?
yes,
Okay. And that was the job you thought that he took after he left the Navy?
yes,
Okay. Do you know what he did for the Department of Veteran Affairs?
no.
Did he ever tell you?
I don't, I mean, I know he's a lawyer, but I don't really know.
Okay.
So.
Did there come a time when Mindy and Mr. Kassotis wound up moving somewhere where you were present as well?
Yes.
Tell the jury how that came to be the situation.
Well, I know they came down one Christmas and spent Christmas in Hilton Head when we were living there. And
When you say we, who do you mean?
my husband and myself, my son, and my daughter-in-law,
Okay.
Frank the Fourth and Megan.
Okay, and so do you mean Frank the Fourth then and Megan?
And my husband, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
and where was Matthew?
Oh, Poor Matthew, I just totally forgot him.
Okay.
Yes, Matthew also, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, at some point, did Matthew go to school?
Yes, he went to college after he graduated high school, so.
Okay. Was that an away school or was he
Yes, no, he went to school in Douglas, Georgia, 2 years, and then to Milledgeville, 2 years.
home? Okay. So he had moved out of the house, Matthew, at that point? When he went to college?
Yes,
Okay. And when you were living with Frank the Fourth and Megan, where in the country were you living at that time?
Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Okay. And were Mr. Kassotis and your daughter with you at that point?
No, they did come, I believe it was February 2021.
Okay,
They
so-
called Frank the Fourth and asked him to come pick them up in Beaufort, and so he did, and he brought them back to the house to live.
Okay. So were you at the house with Frank the Fourth and Megan for a period of time before they moved in?
Yes,
Okay. And when they moved in, did they bring anyone with them?
their dog Rusty.
Okay. When they came to stay with Frank the Fourth and Megan, was Mr. Kassotis working?
He had his computer and he was doing computer work.
Okay. And describe for the jury what you saw him doing on a day-to-day basis.
He would get up in the morning and work all through the day on his computer and into the early morning hours.
Okay. Did you ever have an opportunity to look at what was on his computer monitor?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Well, for one reason, I wanted to be respectful, and I also thought it wasn't any of my business, but.
Did he ever advise you you weren't permitted to look?
Objection to leading.
Withdrawn. I'll rephrase. At that point, you believed he was working for what company?
Something to do with Microsoft.
Okay. But you didn't know more than simply that?
No,
Okay.
I did not.
And when you observed him, you said he was working from the early morning hours until late at night. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever able to hear him having communications with anybody by WebEx?
No, I never did.
Did you ever have any opportunity to hear meetings by any other platform like Skype or anything like that?
No, I did not.
So all you saw was him working on the device?
Yes.
Okay. Was Mindy working at the time?
No, she was not.
Okay. Do you know why she was not working?
Well, one basic reason was she was scared to death to leave the house, so.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, there was supposed to be people after them. They supposedly had security, and so she was truly fearful for her life.
Did you believe that?
Yes.
And when you said that she was fearful for her life, did you ever see the security team that they referred to?
No, I did not.
Did you ever speak to anyone from a security team?
Only by email.
Okay. At some point there were email communications.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you believe that was the security team?
I did.
And tell us what the living arrangements were at Frank and Megan's house.
They had a 2-story house. The bedrooms were upstairs, and Frank and Megan had the master bedroom. And then when Mindy and Nick came to live there, I moved into the little kind of middle bedroom so they could have the bigger bedroom and you know, lots of windows and stuff.
Okay. So all of you each had, meaning each couple, had your own bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did there come a time when there were any problems with the living arrangements with Frank and Megan?
I'm trying to think exactly when it was. Maybe like March or April of 2022, with the real estate market, they wanted to sell their house because there was such a good real estate market, and So that's when problems started to occur.
Okay. What were those problems?
Well, they asked Mindy and Nick to please have their security move them somewhere else because so they could get the house ready to sell. And with a dog, they had Rusty, and so it was hard to put your house on the market with all of that going on.
Okay. And at that time, you believed that the security team was supposed to move Nick and Mindy?
Yes.
Okay. Did they move out?
They did, but my son finally, after weeks of going on, he finally went and filed an eviction,
So
hoping
Nick-
to force the security people to do something.
Okay. And the security people, were they providing any, if you know, was any money being paid to Frank and Megan for Mr. Kassotis and Mindy staying at Frank and Megan's house?
I don't really know.
Okay. But it was your understanding that the security team would have to move them?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, did Mr. Kassotis and your daughter leave the residence?
They did.
Do you know what the circumstances surrounding that were?
Yes. Frank the Fourth filed the eviction, and it got down to where they, however many hours or days it is, we were down to the last couple of days, and I told Nick, Frank the Fourth is dead serious about this. Y'all need to be gone when they were out of town for a few days because it was Memorial Day. So I said, when they get home, y'all need to be gone. And so I said, I can help. I can pay for a hotel for a few days if that'll help you. So we ended up loading up, and I took them to a hotel in Savannah.
Okay. And when you say I took them, were you alone at that time with the two of them and the dog?
Yes.
Where was your husband Frank and your son Matthew?
Matthew played ball in the Northwoods League for a team in Illinois, so Frank had taken him to Illinois to get him settled and stayed a few days, and so he wasn't there.
So neither of them were there with you at the time?
Correct.
Okay. And you said we all loaded up in the car. Whose car?
It was actually Matthew's old Altima.
Did Mindy or Mr. Kassotis have a vehicle at that point?
No, they did not.
Okay. And you drove to Savannah with them?
Yes.
And you said, I believe, that was Memorial Day weekend, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Of 2022?
Yes.
Okay, I played a really big chunk of Mrs. Mebbin's testimony because it's really hard to explain, and I don't think that you would believe me if I tried to. She corroborates that Mindy and Nick were in fact fearful for their lives, and she even talks about them having a security team, and she was told that Mindy was pregnant and due in January, which, if my math serves me correctly, means that Mindy would have been approximately 3 months pregnant, give or take, by Memorial Day weekend. And what about those family troubles? An eviction, the brother having to file eviction against his sister and his brother-in-law, and a security team that was never seen by anyone, and communications over email and the Signal app. I mean, honestly, just stop right now and tell me. You would not have believed me if I would have told you what she said verbatim. So that's why I played it for you. Well, Mom ended up paying for a hotel for Nick and Mindy to stay at because Frank III was not having it anymore. He was like, y'all have got to go. I want to sell my house. Y'all have a dog. There's too many people living in my house. Like, move, right? So Nick and Mindy stayed at the hotel for a little bit, but eventually they found that Airbnb in Savannah, Georgia. After settling in, Nick called Betsy and Frank and said, hey, why don't you guys come stay with us since Frank III is trying to sell the house? Betsy and Frank agreed, and honestly, they don't know who really paid the rent, but they assumed it was Nick's security team paying for that Airbnb. Both Mom and Dad testified that while in the Airbnb, Mindy never left the house. She was truly fearful. And Nick? Well, he worked from home on his computer all day and into the wee hours of the night and the morning. Neither party had met any of Nick's coworkers, and they never met anyone on this alleged security team. So let's fast forward to the day right before Thanksgiving 2022. It's a Wednesday. Betsy and Frank III leave the Airbnb for the long weekend to be with their youngest son, Matthew. When questioned, neither parent could pinpoint the last date or time that they saw Mindy alive, but they believed it was earlier that week because Mindy would often stay in her room sometimes and they wouldn't see her some days. They both did mention that Mindy's health was not good. She was suffering from what they were told was high blood pressure, and she looked really ill. But they leave her there right before Thanksgiving to go to be with their other son, their young son, and they leave her with her husband. And they're basically like, well, maybe she'll get better. In any event, the Mebane couple returned to the Airbnb the Sunday following Thanksgiving, and they don't see Mindy, but it doesn't appear to cause any alarm. Betsy returns to work on Monday, and that's the day that Nick tells the couple that he took Mindy to the hospital to get her treated for her high blood pressure issue. Now, when the Mebbins hear this, this makes them happy. They are happy that she's finally going to be getting some medical treatment because remember, according to them, she never left the house. Well, on November 30th, 2022, Frank III has to go in for a hip replacement and he spends the night at the hospital. So that's a Wednesday. On December 1st, Thursday, he returns home. His wife goes to pick him up, and Nick is so excited to take care of his father-in-law that he tells his mother-in-law, hey, don't worry about this man, go to work, and she's a legal assistant. So she's kind of like, okay, cool, I can go back to work. So she returns to work. Betsy said that when she returned to the Airbnb, Nick was not there. However, Frank III testified that Nick didn't leave that day until Betsy returned. In any event, they both know that Nick did leave that day because he told them, hey, I'm leaving because I'm going to visit Mindy in the hospital. A couple of hours later, Nick returns and Betsy starts asking him questions, right? She's like thinking about her daughter, worried about her daughter. And that's when she says that Nick starts talking and mumbling and crying so much that she can't understand a thing he is saying. Eventually, he blurts it out, Mindy's dead. He explains that Mindy had been connected, she was at the hospital, and she had been connected to all of these, kind of like medical things that they connect you with, right? But at some point during her stay, she needed to go to the restroom. So the nurse disconnected her from all of the things, took her to the restroom, and at some point, the nurse left Mindy in the restroom unattended. So Mindy, feeling a little bit better, she returned to the bed and then she died of a stroke. Now, Betsy and Frank III never saw Mindy's body. There was no funeral. There were no hospital records. In fact, they talked to Nick about a potential memorial, but Nick said he have to wait on his security team to basically give him the thumbs up. Now, before I continue, I did want to point out that Frank III did testify that from Monday to Friday, from 12 to 3 p.m., Mindy and Nick asked him to leave the house for his safety. And then when Frank was ready to return, he would actually have to contact them via the Signal app so that they could check with the security team to ensure it was safe for Dad to return to the house. If your head is spinning, same. So they were told, let's go back to when they were told about Mindy's death. They were told that Mindy died on December 1st, and no kidding, within days, Nick had packed them up and moved them to a condo in Hilton Head. It was a paid-for condo, and the Mebbins had assumed that the condo was paid by Nick's security team, but they didn't really ask any questions. In any event, the Mebbins both assumed that they would see Nick again. But once Nick dropped them off, they never saw him again. They did communicate with Nick over the Signal app and then once over the phone. Something about Nick told them that he was going to meet his birth mother. Apparently, he had either been adopted or stolen at birth. Y'all, this story gets crazier and crazier by the minute. In any event, he said, I found my mom and I'm going to go meet my birth mother. The Mebans were like, oh, okay. But then in February of 2023, they got an email. And it was an email from someone on Nick's security team informing them that Nick had been in a terrible car accident and he was on life support. They were like, oh my gosh, we will go be with him. We don't care if he's on life support. We'll just go hold his hands. Whatever it is, like, we'll go. But they were not allowed. Within days, they received another email. Nick Kassotis was dead. The Mebans grieved Nick's loss because they had lost Mindy as well. So they were just like devastated. Like, we lost Mindy, now we lost Nick. Like, what the heck? Let's fast forward. I'm doing a lot of fast forwarding because there is so much that goes on here. After they're notified in February of 2023, they really don't hear much of anything until May of 2023. So Betsy's at work. Remember, she's a legal assistant, but she takes a break and she's going to go grab some coffee. But on her way to grab coffee, she gets a call from work and they're like, hey, you need to come back. There's an agent with the GBI here who wants to talk to you. And it's Agent Sands, the lead agent on this very case. At some point, while Agent Sands is talking to her about Nicholas Kassotis, Betsy's like, listen, Nick Kassotis is dead. And Agent Sands is like, ma'am, you listen to us. He is very much alive. Miss Mebane agrees, or Mrs. Mebane agrees to give a swab of her cheek. And when her DNA is compared to their Jane Doe, Betsy Mebane is informed that her daughter is dead, but she didn't die at a hospital in December. So, alternates, that wrapped it up for day 3. We got the science, we got the Home Depot and the Bass Pro receipt trail. We have the heart-wrenching, albeit odd story from Mindy's family. I mean, we had it all today. Today left me feeling like I was watching a catfishing documentary on Netflix. I mean, I still have not heard any evidence about some guy named Jim McIntyre. And seriously, I'm feeling like we might hear from the defendant himself after the prosecution rests. I mean, how else are we going to hear about this guy named Jim McIntyre? We didn't hear it from the Mebans. Okay, so I'm not sure if this guy plans on testifying, but I'm getting those types of vibes from the questions that the defense is asking. Tomorrow, we will be back right here to pick up with day 4. You're not going to want to miss it. But before then, tell me what you think so far. Let me know in the comments. Leave us a 5-star rating. Like, whatever it is, just let us know what you think. All right, alternates, until tomorrow, think like a juror, decide like one too.